Welcome, everybody. This is Coach Clay Banks. I want to introduce you to a special series of the Performance Zone called Hollywood Industry Talk. And in this series, I will be interviewing different industry specialists in segments. And I'm very pleased and happy to introduce you to my first guest for our first series of segments, Mr. Kevin E. West. Now, Kevin has been a working actor in Hollywood since 1990. His credits are extensive. I could go on and on and on, but some of the shows that he's been on, everything from Criminal Minds to Castle, Touch, NYPD Blue, The X-Files, CSI, Judging Amy. He's just come off of a show. I'm going to find out about it because Kevin and I have not talked because we want to save the talk for you guys, and we will open up our conversation live after months of not talking. So I'm looking forward to that. Kevin is also the founder of the Actors Network, or more commonly or affectionately known as TAN. Now, TAN was the most recognized and trusted industry-endorsed actors business organization in the United States. The Actors Network held consecutive 2006-2007 Backstage LA Readers' Choice Awards and has been featured on shows like Entertainment Tonight 3 times and CNBC twice. Its well-accredited alumni list is extensive. Now, Kevin is recognized in the industry as an expert on the business education of the performer. He speaks nationally and internationally at such events as SAG-AFTRA, Showbiz Expo, New York City, UCLA, the SAG Conservatory, Chapman University, Cal State Fullerton, and various talent conventions around the world. Excuse me, everybody, I just had a shake. But without any further ado, I want to open up this conversation and welcome you, Kevin. Happy for you to be here.
Thanks, man. Pleasure.
How you doing?
I am solid, bro.
Oh, solid is great right now in this climate.
Yeah, we were about 7 feet 2 inches apart. It's perfect.
Yeah, you know, it's really crazy because right now, even if you cough or you have something stuck in your throat, everybody's like, Corona, Corona.
I just saw a meme earlier. The guy in a T-shirt says, "I'm not sick. I'm hungover." Genius.
Oh man, the memes are
perfect.
they're just brilliant right now. But we intentionally didn't talk, and I didn't mean to be rude to you. You were asking me some questions, and we started a conversation a couple of days ago. I said, "No, Kevin, no, this is what I want to. I want to talk about this when we're on the show."
No problem.
Yeah. So that's I just want to open up the conversation, share with our viewing and listening audience, mostly entertainment people, obviously actors. That's who we predominantly cater to, and just have a discussion about what's happening from one industry professional to another. You're also, I didn't mention that you are also a SAG-AFTRA delegate, and you're very active in that. So why don't you expand just on that a little bit to give the audience a little bit more of an understanding.
It becomes a bit of a convoluted conversation, but unfortunately, it is. Honestly, Clay, it's one of the things that, whether you're union or not, that's one of my big things about the union is conversations about the union. A lot of actors sometimes think don't apply to them if they're either eligible or a must join or simply have chosen not to be one, or whether you are one. But the governance of our union is a pretty important aspect. And you can be in LA, you can be a local where the locals are. You can be a local board member. I think there are 27. I'm maybe getting that number wrong. Maybe 25 locals in the country. LA, of course, is the majority local. There are more members in Los Angeles than there are. Actually, 52% of our membership is in Los Angeles. Being a delegate is simply getting elected to be a delegate at the convention, which happens right after the elections every 2 years. It just happened in October of 19. So I am that. But I'm also the vice chair of the conservatory committee and the co-chair of the organizing committee. And for everybody who's watching who would be interested, I'm also someone who's on the theatrical contract negotiation committee.
So what does all that mean? What do you do?
Well, it means that I'm intrinsically involved, as many other people are, which is completely voluntary. All the people who are actors that help our union, not our staff, do it on the voluntary basis from the president on down. It's giving your time. But committees are designed to obviously bring value to the membership of all that we do. It also is kind of like a silent Congress, for lack of a better phrase, in the sense that, there's governance review committees and technology. It's how we wind up pushing forward what it is that we do for the union. So a lot of them are extraordinarily important, from More to Move, the next gen performers. It's all about trying to further ourselves, and certainly the conservatory, which is a great tool for people to be a part of when you're a union member. It is about bringing value and pushing the union forward in a volunteer way as a union member. So I stayed away from it a long time because the Actors Network that you mentioned, during the 23 and a half years that we had a physical location, I did this on my own. I would have panels and people come in and would educate, a lot of the members of the Actors Network. But I closed that in June of 2013 and decided 3 years and change ago to get involved with this grassroots group, as you know, Union Working, and it led me to then finally go ahead and jump in the pool of actually being directly involved with the union. So it's all about help us help you help all of us, which was a phrase that the Actors Network had, and moving your union forward.
Yeah, I didn't know that no one in the union is paid?
None of the actors are paid.
Okay.
You have, our union is made up of two distinct entities. One is staff, and the other are union members. So anyone who is an actor that is in any of the elected positions, not hired positions,
Gotcha.
are all volunteers.
So
So from
president
Gabrielle
is
Carteris
paid.
on down, that is all volunteer. Cameron Manheim, whoever it may be, that's all volunteer. Anybody who's staff, sure, you have a LA president that's a staff person. You have our national executive director, David White, who is the top lawyer negotiator for our union. All of the staff people down at HQ, as we call it, at 5757 Wilshire, yes, all of those people are paid. So you have paid staff, and then you have volunteer members. That is how our union is broken up.
Got it. Okay, well, for this segment, it just seems to be going in this direction. What's happening with the union? Because the union sets the pace, obviously, for actors, for what's actually going on in the industry. You can't base it off of non-union talent. I mean, it's the union. What's happening from your perspective right now in this climate?
Nothing. I mean, we're absolutely nothing. This industry is shut down. Like I said, I got very lucky. I shot 2 episodes of The Righteous Gemstones for HBO,
Right.
and I got on a plane in South Carolina, man, and my plane landed on Friday the 13th. And 36 hours later, Gavin Newsom shut this state down. I mean, I just got that shoot in, and the industry is closed. I mean, there were probably some small things being done, or maybe some actors are doing some things on their own. But technically, to your question, this is what it would look like if we were on strike.
Right.
That's
Right.
for our community. That's what it would look like, except for the fact that if we were on strike, there still would be all of the other contracts, like the commercials contract, that don't apply to the theatrical contract. So this is even worse. I mean, this is I Am Legend, man. That's the world we're all living in. This is The Last Man on Earth, Vincent Price, back in the 60s. This is no one is doing anything.
You can't even have scabs in this climate.
No. No, and I could go a long direction on that as a funny joke, but I'm going to avoid it.
Yeah.
You kind of tossed it up to me, but I'm going to let it
For
go.
those of you that don't know, scabbing is when you're crossing the picket lines and you're working when you should be supporting your union. Okay, it's pretty much a ghost town over there now, which opens up the conversation for me now that the union is doing a lot for actors. They are giving away the farm in training and casting director workshops and A-list actor talks. I mean, you're getting these emails, right? I mean, I'm getting barraged with them.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things that the union is currently in the middle of doing, because I happen to be a part of it, is our theatrical contract expires on June 30th. And I'm a part of the negotiating committee. Now, I cannot talk about any of the specifics because
What
that
does
is
that
all.
mean? I mean,
Well, we have a contract. And this is one of those things that I understand that our community.
who's we has a contract?
We, union members. Theatrical contract, the thing that governs what you get paid, that governs.
Oh, you're talking about the theatrical contract.
I'm talking about the theatrical contract.
With the union.
With
the producers.
With the AMPTP, right?
Right,
Association of Motion Picture Television Producers. That is
Right.
correct. Mm-hmm. And also with non-AMPTP people such as Netflix. And so we have those contracts. We have to negotiate those contracts, and those contracts are born, they come to light through a long process that starts with the W&Ws, which is wages and working condition meetings, that feed all the way through. And there is a negotiating committee that is made up of staff and members. And I'm on that. As a matter of fact, I just got off of a 2.5-hour Zoom call today because we have no choice. Otherwise, we would be meeting in person, but we can't. And these negotiations cannot stop because the contract sunsets on June 30th. So, this is one of those areas where a lot of our community, Clay, just doesn't care. And I get it. I totally get it. But this is one of the challenges for us as a union and as a community, as a professional community, is we don't inherently not care. To me, you know that I'm a big philosophical person. We're not told it's 17 or 19 or 22, or we're not told to care. So we don't have an orientation in high school if you're a performer, which I wasn't, or even in college. There's not an aptitude that we are socialized with and educated with to care about what your working business contracts are, yet a lot of us decide we'd like to make money as a performer. Well, they go hand in hand. Do you know how long our codified bargaining agreement, the CBA, is, Clay?
No idea.
Almost 1,000 pages long.
Yeah, who's reading all that?
It is our staff. And unfortunately, a lot of the guys sitting across from you and all the people, I took calculus twice, bro, not once. It makes my head hurt. And you don't read it all, but that's how, I guess my bigger point is on this segment, this subject, that's how behemoth our industry is. When you start talking about all the stuff on set and all the things that have to do with penalties and travel and motion capture and dancers and background and guest stars and rates and everything that's involved, from safety to stunts to intimacy core. That's why it's almost 1,000 pages. That literally is being worked towards a codified negotiation package to present as we're sitting here right now.
And that 1,000-page, what would you call it? A report?
No, it's a CBA. It's a codified bargaining agreement. It's a collective bargaining agreement. It's what it is.
It's the agreement.
It's a CBA.
That applies to a union background extra the same way it would apply to an A-plus list celebrity.
The 1,000 pages would be made up of several different sections, one of which is related to background. That is correct. But obviously, like anything, the language in each one of those sections, each covenant, each clause.
Okay. Let me rephrase the question. A working actor who's making 15 bones a day on a 1 day under 5 or co-star,
Mm-hmm.
it is being held by that agreement to the same account as, say, George Clooney.
That is correct.
Yes.
To the extent that what that agreement makes up. The easiest way to say it is those 1,000 pages really just come down to what we would call in life minimum. So it's the minimum that they have to do with whomever based on whatever they're hiring and whatever they're dealing with. And George Clooney, as it would be with anything in life, can negotiate far and above that. But what our contract really means to any of us is, in all of these different areas, this is the bare minimum that you have to meet, whether that is safety, whether it's meal penalties, whether it's a 12-hour turnaround, whatever it may be. This is what we would call collectively in that 1,000 pages. I'm not kidding you, bro. It's like this.
That's just a curious question. What percentage would you say of the 160 or so thousand union members are the celebrity stars that most people in the country and parts of the world actually experience as the acting community?
So within that 1%, you probably have 0.3 to 0.5% that really would probably be the people that are the controlling level of a feature film or a television show. And then you would have another 0.5% or maybe up until like 1.2% of people that get paid a particular amount per week that we would call that, by the ability to negotiate that, we'd call them a celebrity.
Which, according to the statistics, is you're looking at 1,000 to maybe 1,500 actors totally make up that.
100%. Yes, 1%. That's correct.
Yeah.
You are. Right. That is the math.
And then the rest of those 160,000, or just less than, are the working actors. And unemployed actors and background actors.
93% of them are unemployed.
Yeah, 93%.
Most of the time.
I use a statistic because I speak also over at SAG-AFTRA in their new members meetings and stuff. And I mention often that, and the statistics were out there, I don't know if they're still exactly the same, but that less than 3% of the union actors make over $5,000 a year.
Yeah, you can bring that up to about 15,000 now, but still you are correct.
Yeah, and that's about 4,500 actors out of 160,000.
Correct. But I do want to make a real clear distinction for your audience about something, because this is a common conversation that, because I guess, Clay, we've been around for a long time, I get asked a lot. And I get asked a lot what's changed in Hollywood. These percentages haven't. That's the same damn answer as 1990. And a lot of the newer actors in the era that we live in now, or if you want to discuss millennials or people that grew up with a cell phone in their hand or whatever it is, that somehow, Hollywood has gotten worse. Actually, no, it's the same shit. That 97%, the 3% that actually make blah, or some massaging from year in, year out, when you combine the commercials contract with the theatrical contract, you want to start discussing voiceovers, Spanish language, and you want to get into all these areas where our profession brings in money that our union works off of. The bottom line is you start looking at the fact that people go, oh, it's so bad, so different. No. Just 3% is still the same 30 years later.
Awesome. That's crazy. Hey, everybody. Coach Clay Banks here, and I want to introduce you to another episode of The Performance Zone. We are in a specialty series right now due to the nature of the present times, and we are calling this Hollywood Industry Talk. And in these talks, I will be interviewing different industry professionals about how things are being affected in their worlds in this present condition that we are all experiencing. And my guest today is an amazing guy. I've known Mr. Kevin E. West for quite a long while. He's a powerhouse as an individual, a powerhouse in the industry. Kevin has been a working actor in Hollywood since 1990, and his credits are extensive. They include television shows from Aquarius to Criminal Minds, Bones, Castle, Touch, CSI Miami, Justified, Leverage. He's done NCIS, Alias, Judging Amy, NYPD Blue, and most recently, Hawaii Five-0. Just got back from Hawaii when I interviewed him last, and just got off the plane before the shutdown on a television show on HBO called Righteous Gemstones. Now, along with his acting career, Kevin has also been the founder of the Actors Network, or more affectionately known as TAN. Now, TAN was the most recognized and trusted industry-endorsed actors business organization in the United States. That's quite impressive. The Actors Network held consecutive 2006, 2007 Backstage West Readers' Choice Awards and has been featured on Entertainment Tonight 3 times and CNBC twice. It's well-accredited alumni. The list is extensive. I'm not even going to touch that because we can just go on and on and on. Kevin speaks nationally and internationally about the business and education of the entertainment industry for the performer. He speaks at SAG-AFTRA, Showbiz Expo, New York City, UCLA. He speaks at SAG Conservatory, Chapman University, Cal State Fullerton, and various talent and convention shows around the globe. Maybe not personally right now at this moment, but we'll see what happens as the time changes. I'm very excited to have with us Mr. Kevin E. West. Kevin, thank you for being here.
My pleasure, man.
Segment 2.
Yes, sir. Lock and
You
load.
said that you do a lot of traveling to go to the SAG-AFTRA meetings as a delegate, but you're doing the meetings now on Zoom. So my question is, bringing in the whole sequestered online dynamic that we're all experiencing, can these meetings be done effectively through Zoom? What's the big difference?
Do you mean the current conversations that we're having that from a union staff negotiation side, or do you mean for the actor?
I mean, when you guys meet and you go to the boardrooms, wherever in the Cagney room, wherever you meet, where do you meet?
Oh, well, the Zoom call, these conversations that are currently involving the negotiations, are on Zoom, they are difficult. It is for the conversation that is negotiating. It's very difficult to do it on Zoom.
Because you can't argue well, or
Just the electronic interface makes it difficult. It's harder to have because everything's done by Robert's rules. Questions, raising hand, put me on the list. I have a comment.
oh, he's controlling it all.
Oh,
it's not an open conversation.
Oh no! To try and
Oh.
get through actual deal points and legal jargon, and oh hell no! This is you're talking, and it would be the same thing if we were in the Cagney room at HQ. It's you have extremely stringent way that you have to go through this process. Extremely stringent. Yeah.
Okay, so how many are on a Zoom conference call?
50
50?
from around the country. Yeah. If you take a look at all the locals and then the number of people that are on negotiating committee, you have it's in the ballpark of 50 people because you have some staff members there and you have national executive director and the president and yeah, it's between 45 and 52, I think.
So in this segment, let's talk a little bit about, and some of this could be speculation. I guess everything's speculation right now because obviously none of us have dealt with any of this, so we don't really know what the hell's going on. Yeah. So we're going to speculate, just as a viewer discretion. Everything you're about to hear are the opinions of us only. Okay. Where do you think things are going to go? I just heard today on the news that they're talking about not bringing back ball games and sporting events until 2021.
That is correct. That was actually said by our governor, or our mayor, rather. I think Garcetti
so
said that.
What do you think? How do you think that's going to affect the entertainment
Well,
industry?
I have a couple of macro philosophies just on life and culture and business in the country. But as far as Hollywood's concerned, I hate to sound like I'm trying to channel Dr. Fauci on CNN, but this is going to come down to testing. This is going to come down to the fact that you need to be able to quickly swab someone, and in 5 minutes, just think of it as like trying to get into TSA for a flight, right? This is what working. If we want to go back to work, Clay, this is what's going to occur. We are literally going to show up someplace, and you are to shoot a show, and you're going to have to get tested at that moment, and it's going to have to happen every single day. That's what it's going to look like, in my opinion. Just my opinion, not necessarily what you, but that's if we want to get back to work, and in a lot of ways, in a lot of things, that's what it's going to have to look like. We're going to have a foolproof test because they've already proven some of these tests have made mistakes. It's going to have results in 5-10 minutes that are 100%, and it's going to happen literally every day. To me, that's what's going to occur.
I think that's actually that just rang a bell for me because it would make sense when you said the TSA, because think about it, pre 9/11 we just hopped on and off of planes. Post 9/11 we got to go through this whole thing, and now it's part of our life. And
yes. And too many people still don't understand it after 19 years, but yes.
And now with this whole swabbing, if we're going to go to a concert, we're going to go to a ball game, we're going to make a movie and show up on a movie set with 250 other people, you're going to be swabbed right in the trailer.
Oh, at the parking lot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at the way people are pulling up.
Well, there'd be
to
a
get
special
tested.
trailer at the parking lot for you to get swabbed.
I mean, I'm saying that I'm not even being, flip or casual about it. If we want to go back to work in this profession, that's what's going to occur, and it is going to affect, culturally, the concept of self-taping. Now, we could spend all day long on that conversation, but the reality is, even during this period of time, you've already had 7, 10, 12 casting entities that have put out open calls asking people to send in videos that they're willing to consider. Yeah. Some of them are really legitimate offices. Some of them are smaller entities. One of them is, ABC Diversity. And again, a lot of that is simply practicing them to actually get used to the fact that this is going to be more and more common, even though we've already been going that way just technology-wise. Now you're adding technology and death. And so that's going to be common. I still think it's going to bleed over into business. I think that companies and CEOs are going to start realizing you can have, I'm going to go on record for this because a lot of the stuff I used to say in TAN that came true, nobody heard. I think you're going to see a lot of companies go to a 50% 3-day, 2-day rolling staff in the office. I just do. I think if you work 3 days this week, you work 2 days next week, you do the other part at home, half the staff is there, keeps people spaced out. If you want to get back to work, I think that's going to be a lot of what we do.
When I was growing up as a young guy, especially out of college, they didn't want workers spaced out. And now we're asking workers to be spaced out.
And in the cities like this, I mean, New York is horribly different than Chicago or LA just because of the train system. But man, don't you kind of like less traffic? Don't you
Dude,
kind of like
I don't
nice
even
air?
want to go there. I ride a
That's
motorcycle. I'm on the weekends. I am ripping it up. I am crossing town like nobody's
But
business.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, again, at SAG-AFTRA, part of what the conservatory generated that is now gone to the SAG Foundation in terms of having a self-tape facility, when you think about what your union can do for you, why do we all have to become filmmakers and technology experts? Why can we not just have a place to go and do all the self-tapes? Because that's a lot of what's going to occur. And I'm not saying that people don't have a handle on that, but this pandemic is going to, necessity is the mother of invention. You are going to have no choice.
Here's what I was thinking, and you can chime in on what you think. I'm doing these all my classes. Well, all of them. They went on the Atkins diet, but I'm holding classes through the week. We had to lose several of them, but we're functional, and the classes are full. And I'm doing Zoom classes, and I'm doing Zoom private one-on-ones, and Zoom self-tapes, which is really kind of a trip. But what this got me doing is thinking from a casting director's perspective. If I were a casting director, would I want to rent a space, pay for everything involved, to have actors come in and out, and actors coming out to see them? Hang on. Do I want them to stay in their homes and do 39 takes to get the perfect take with help from support systems and levers and pulleys to pull off this performance that they're submitting? And I'm going, oh, what a wonderful actor, but they can't duplicate that in the room. And they certainly aren't at that level of their craft. They just got hitched up for that. Or do I want to interview them on Zoom? And I went, if I were a casting director right now, I would open up a Zoom casting office and I would just say, okay, here's your audition. It's 2:00 Tuesday. Boom. Get in front of a neutral background. Let me see your work. Thank you very much. Go to the next Zoom. That just makes sense to me.
I do not think that you are wrong on any level. Do I believe that step from self-tape and send to live in Zoom is coming? Absolutely.
And I think it has to.
No argument. I mean, I'm not trying to not add content to the conversation, but again, necessity is, and I do agree with you that there is a problem with self-tapes in the sense that you can sit around and screw with it until you get it right, which is one of my biggest conversations that I've been having with actors going all the way back to the early years of the Actors Network of you cannot duplicate the pressure under which you feel by walking in a casting office or walking onto a set. And that is one of the problems with self-tapes because you're safe, you're at home. Even in the scenario we're going to be in, you still probably have a friend over reading with you that you know is safe. It's not the same scenario. And then you get to the set, you get hired, and a lot of people fall apart.
Dude, I remember back in the 90s when I did and I didn't even know what was going on because we didn't have this technology. Well, I showed up for a casting, and the casting director said, the director is going to work with you. And I went, oh, okay, that's cool. It was a Gillette commercial. I remember this. This was crazy.
Of course you did a Gillette commercial. Of course you did.
But this was really wild because the casting director walked me in front of, in this space with the microphone, and I'm like, they said, the director's in Italy. And he's going to be talking to you now. Sure. And I'm like, when this was like through a TI cable or something like that. I didn't even know what technology.
T1 line.
Is that what, I didn't even know what they were doing.
Yeah.
All I knew is I was so wigged out, Kevin, because I'd never experienced this. And he's talking like it's God directing me for this audition. And that was pretty trippy. That was my first experience with that.
I can remember my first satellite to the ad agency and the people in Chicago for a commercial callback. I remember it like it was yesterday.
And now, boom, Zoom. Everybody's Zooming.
Yeah. You're going to have to. That's the way it is, man.
Yeah. So I started also thinking about right now with this whole sequestering, even though the industry is shut down, the people aren't shut down. There are filmmakers, producers, there are executives everywhere that are just in their homes behind the scenes thinking and processing and figuring and going, how are we going to make movies? How are we going to do it now? What's it going to look like now? Like I just picture what's James Cameron doing right now? Where's his brain going as far as how do we tell stories this way?
If I were James Cameron, I would be someplace on a boat on an island.
Well,
somewhere.
yeah, we get that, but you know what I mean. These people are all over.
No. I mean, this is a person business. You can't you can't zoom our profession in terms of actually shooting. That's why, to me, it comes down to testing. But this is also part of it, it taps back into the other segment of the sense that, what our, streaming video on demand, residuals packages and that sort of stuff, because you have a lot of product, a lot of content from Hulu and other such libraries in Disney and Disney Plus where this is what Netflix is about. This is why one of the reasons why Netflix made a deal with us ahead of time. Netflix is feeling great right now because they have a deal with us. They don't, whenever we come back, they don't have to negotiate anything. They can start shooting. So I just think the process of going into the studio, if you're a writer in the writer's room, I think the process of being an executive at a studio and going into a physical building, and the process of showing up, if you want to think of it in terms of, STDs and sex. I mean, this is the world that we're going to live in. We all are going to sort of deal with the metaphorical concept of a condom in terms of just working. And I'm not trying to even be funny. I'm just saying that's an accurate statement. You and I both, we were in our, we were in our 20s ish, in the mid 80s or so, and when that came through, and so we are going to be in a mentality like that. And so to me, it's just going to come down to testing and safety. And that, is everybody good? We're all good? Okay. And then we'll all be normal about that. But how that comes about, how that gets rolled out, shows that shoot more on locations, shows that shoot in other cities, shows that shoot more in a studio. I think you're going to, and that's going to be what the soft, as you would say, a soft opening. That's going to be the soft rolling coming back. Is to some shows are going to be an advantage. How many cast members do you have? How many few cast members do you have? Half hour might be easier. They don't have as many people on set. Smaller crew. Commercials will be much easier than theatrical because you could probably do it with 8 guys on crew, your director, and couple of actors in the product. I mean, all of those machinations and permutations and combinations, to use a trigonometry phrase, that is going to have a vast effect on who can come back faster or quicker. But it's still going to come down to, are we safe?
We're in our next segment with Mr. Kevin E. West. And Kevin, what I thought would be interesting to talk about is I've been watching these specials that musicians have been putting on, where bands have been getting together in their own homes and making music together as a band. And then most recently, last Saturday Night Live did an episode with Tom Hanks as the host, and they were doing their show via Zoom. Now, you cannot tell me that there are not writers all over the place that are writing these things right now, sequestered. This is a writer's paradise, and coming up with concepts for new television shows, Zoom shows, social distancing shows, all these kind of dynamics.
I just did one. I'm doing one as we speak.
What is that?
My friend Pat Battistini, the guy who actually, first of all, we're old friends. He was a member of TAN, the Actors Network. Ironically, we're both the same age, born on the same day. It's weird.
Wow.
Pat transitioned into writing and directing some time ago. His wife actually happens to be from Nashville, my hometown. It's all very weird. But he did a short that has won like 27 awards now that I was in, called 10 Can. And just in the last 3 weeks, he said, "You know what? I'm going to do a new media series called Safe at Home," and it is a Zoom show based on the mayor of the town, and who's a quirky goofball, having a regular town hall to discuss the challenges that we face. And of course, he wrote it as a comedy, and you have this random collection of people. He got different prototypes and one guy's in a wheelchair for real because he's one of the producers, and a guy with a hook, and it got a bunch of people, that some of whom I know, some of whom I don't, but it basically is what the town community kind of governance would be doing in the state of COVID, and it's called Safe at Home. And it's just a comedy because people say stupid crap and they ask dumb questions, and it's just this random bing, bing, bing. Of course people are writing those shows. You have to.
That's a great title, State of COVID.
Oh, yeah, State of COVID.
Think about that. State of COVID. You know, it reminds me of the Truman Show.
Absolutely.
You think about it.
Absolutely.
Right? The camera's all over everything. That opens up a whole nother conversation.
You could just do Ed TV, but do it as Zoom.
Right?
Yeah, all that stuff. So it does lend itself in certain ways to comedy. Drama, not as much, but it does lend itself to comedy. Because we're all used to watching Snapchat or TikTok or IGTV. We're all going back to Vine or Johnny Knoxville or any of those things. We're used to laughing at things in bits in time. Well, that's what Zoom is. Click, 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 click. It's just a snapshot that goes a little bit longer. So, it's harder to do drama in a Zoom room. If it's a collection of images and people, but
I'll
it,
tell you on some of the Zooms, because my students they're obviously they're all in their houses, and when I got one student, he went home to visit his mom in Florida, and they shut down the state, and he couldn't leave, so he's actually in his family home, and there's no room there, so all of his sessions for a month now has been in the closet, so he's literally in a closet doing his acting training from a closet. What my point is, some of the angles that the actors have, because they don't have good lighting, they're not thinking about how the picture's coming across. It looks like from the episodes from the Blair Witch Project.
great
One
reference.
of, one of, one of my
Great
girls,
reference.
just last night, I think, she was walking from her bedroom into the living room, and she's walking through the hallway holding her computer. I'm going, this is like a horror movie right here.
Yes. Yes, it's Red Rum just on Zoom and the laptop. Correct.
Oh, it's going to be interesting
Yeah.
to see the stuff that comes out of this. I think it's going to be creatively wild.
Yeah, I do. I think it affects our industry, and I think it affects the culture of the nation severely, personally.
And how about Death Ship? You remember they had the ship, right? Death Ship. Everybody goes out on a cruise on one of these cruise ships, and it's like real. This is real stuff.
Yeah, there's a movie from years ago. I think it was Stallone and Sandra Bullock that was very futuristic, and there was some scene in it. Something he didn't know he was a time traveler or something. I wish I could remember the name, but I don't remember the name at the moment. But then she said something very casual, and I'm like, "Yes, we're going to go have sex. It's really far in the future." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And in her place, 20 feet apart, wearing a helmet, and it's just virtual reality sex. Like, and who needs a dating app anymore? Now you're going to start talking to people over Zoom, and this is how you're going to first know them. I mean, it's going to change all. It's going to change dating. It's going to change social interaction. It's going to change all of that. Yeah, it is.
What might be fun, just because it's such a no-no. Let's talk conspiracy theory.
It's not that much of a no-no.
A
A lot of people believe that China did this on purpose. Yet, what's funny about it, or ironic or sad, is that we've actually learned now that the disease came over from Europe. It didn't come from China. It landed here in New York.
I did not hear that.
Oh yeah, they've traced back contact point to the fact that it landed from Europe. But that's part of the sadness of what you've seen in Italy and Spain is that the travel ban wasn't necessarily wrong. It just wasn't as complete as sometimes the White House would like to say it was, and they've already traced it back to the first contact in New York coming from a traveler from Europe, Western Europe.
I heard when you start getting into bioengineering, this is the wild one. That this was concocted in a laboratory.
Sure.
And wait for it. That if you look at the coronavirus, it has those little antennas all over it, that those antennas are actually real antennas, and this virus is being controlled by a mainframe.
Warning, Roy Robertson.
Exactly.
Warning, that's awesome. I love that.
Is that crazy
that's
stuff?
Good. That's good stuff. And I mean, if you watch Contagion, not so much Outbreak, because Outbreak was much more, that disease in that movie was much more Ebola, but the movie Contagion with Matt Damon is much closer to what the coronavirus is. But the idea of somebody doing this, on a thing that's controlling the antennas on the corona physical virus, that's good. That's good stuff. That's solid work right there.
That's nutty. The things that are out there are absolutely,
Of course,
incredible.
tinfoil on your head, man.
So let's take a look. Let's take a look at. Let's go 5 years ahead. Okay, we're 5 years ahead now. I mean, is this going to blow over? Do you think it's going to be a corona season that we now have, like flu season, that we have corona season?
I'm not sure that I would characterize it as blow over. I certainly would characterize it as something we are going to get past. It is something that we will have a vaccine for. It is something that we will have a cure for. It is something that we will have an accurate antibodies test for. We will get past that. The issue that I have is how much more are we going to see this on a regular basis? That's Kevin's general conversation about this comes down to we've had kind of this staggered thing about pandemics in the history of this country, just leaving it within the United States. And my question becomes, how much more often are we going to encounter this? And it's one of the reasons why don't I don't like what's occurring. But for the people who are 15 to 30 that are going through this right now, the one thing, this is just like 9/11, man, in this way, the one thing that's now going to happen to us that didn't happen 3 months ago. It is April 15th. So 2.5 months ago, we knew this was a problem, but most Americans just went, we don't need to go down that political road. But the next time this sort of thing comes down, if we would shut the country down, we would have a handle on it in 30 days. And that's the one positive out of a horrible negative that I can see, that the idea of a viral pandemic happening at this time with technology and the reality of what this one has done to our economy, what we've done to our lifestyle, our culture, we will not be so laissez-faire about the next one that occurs. And I think every 3 to 5 years is probably really likely.
It really is the end of the world as we know it.
Yeah.
It's a
REM,
whole,
very nice.
Yeah, it's a whole
Very
new
nice.
world.
Think of who you're educating about music during this entire 3 segments. I mean, that's REM's good.
Yeah. It really is this is the new world. This is
Yes.
the new way.
Michael Stipe loves you.
What's that?
Michael Stipe loves you.
Yeah, it's just the new way that things are. And what is it going to ever go back to the way it was? No, it's obviously affected everything, like the TSAs. But what's that going to look like? My concern, and maybe we can even broach on this just for a minute. We're going to end this segment, but my concern is mandatory vaccinations. That's a concern. That starts to open up a whole nother level of stuff.
Civil liberties, and you start going down a whole different. And again, this is a conversation that goes to the meat industry. It's a conversation that goes to flyover states. It's a conversation that goes to the difference of density and population centers. I mean, I'm from rural Tennessee, and life is just not the same in Montana and Idaho as it is in California or New York. And you have, this is part of what's a challenge of this country, because it's so large and it's so diverse, far more than just what one's ethnicity or skin color is. You have the industry diversity that gets affected by something like a virus like this, and then the protocol and execution that you have to go through to quote unquote have a normal life. You have a lot of conflict there. You're correct, man.
Yeah. We'll save that for another conversation. So let's end this segment with the actor and the working at actor, the coming about actor, the actor that's there training and looking to position themselves in the industry, going out for co-stars, trying to get the guest stars, those actors, and even those actors that are working in guest stars and are recurrings and series regulars. What happens now? How do they think? How do they process this? What's the future looking like? Are they going back to their acting training? How's that working?
Do you mean that from a standpoint of what auditioning is going to look like, or do you mean that from a standpoint of work availability?
Everything. What is it? How do they train? Of course. How are they casting? We've discussed that. What are the productions going to look like? But I'm talking about the actor that right now is listening, either live or recorded, that's in their home and maybe alone. Right? They've moved here. You know the deal. We both did it. Came here on our own to come here to do this thing.
Yes, sir.
And they're in their apartments, their dwellings right now, just kind of waiting for something to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I can speak to you. This should not be waiting for Godot. You should not be waiting for something to happen.
I agree.
If that would not be helpful. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care if it's industry related, if it's personal related. I mean, we joked. Listen, I've got a whiteboard that's got stuff on it from 10 years. That's not all industry related. Some of it is, but some of it's just stuff I need to get done and that I want to get done. So whatever ways, whether it's reading, whether it's philosophy, whether it's hobbies and or it's related to this business. I mean, this is the time where you can do a ton of actor research. This is the time you can get on IMDb Pro and start going through all the shows that you'd like to be on and learning producers' names and showrunners' names. I mean, Clay, I could sit here and I could fill the wall with stuff that you could do just as an actor to make yourself much smarter about the business you supposedly want to make money in, that doesn't have a damn thing to do with the fact that we just happen to be in a lockdown.
Yeah, let me put you on the spot. Let me hold you to 3 to 5 specifics that you could tell an actor right now that would help them to be proactive and mobilize them where they are?
One would be to come up with, if you are someone who does not have a lot of material, come up with something very simple that you'd like to do that does not involve more than one or two other people, that you would be able to shoot really well in a short period of time, so you can come out of this and have a piece of material that's a minute long that's brilliant of
You're
you.
saying put a scene together?
Yeah, and that's all. Not a freaking short film, not something that becomes an event. We always make things an event. No, you just need some stuff that causes somebody to go, wow, you're really good. That.
So
And
it's a self-tape or a
no,
production?
no, a very small production. Again, something you could do in, you said the closet, or in a,
So a two-person scene.
yeah, ish, or three tops. But yeah, something like that. Number two, what I just said, sit down and really come up with the 10 to 20 shows that you really feel like, honestly, based on co-stars, based on the city that it's based in, based on whether it's more white collar or blue collar, that you really, and do research on who makes those shows, who does, not just who casts it, who writes the check. Casting directors don't write you the check. It doesn't. They're an important part of the process, but they don't write you the check. Number three, start practicing by looking through all of the submissions, and start learning how to submit and see yourself as right for less. Because we can read ourselves into anything, because I could do that. It's Dustin Hoffman at the beginning of Tootsie. No, 25 to 50% of what you think you're right for, based on the way it's written, you aren't right for. But that's something we have to practice. We have to
Know your type.
Yeah, we have to practice that filter. Number four, one of the other things is really look at your day-to-day life. Are you, skip the pandemic, but are you really comfortable with where you physically live? Are you comfortable in your living situation? You have no idea how much that may or may not be affecting how you feel every day. And this only makes it worse when you're isolated like we are today. It just simply makes it worse. And then I would say one that's fun, not just something that's current, but really go back and spend some time looking at, I've done this recently, spend some time looking at some old stuff, some old movies or some old shows or something it may be, that not a ton of them, just a few of them, that you really revere, that reminds you why it is you want to do this. Because this is hard. It's really hard. And you can't always expect to keep your fuel tank filled from booking jobs, or because you had a good night in class, or because you have a great spouse or a partner. Sometimes you have to go back to being that kid sitting in a movie theater who just said, that's what I'm going to go do now.
I want to tell stories.
Yeah.
And what kind of stories do I want to tell? Yeah, that's good, Kevin. That was some really good stuff. We'll have to pick that up in the next series of these. I just myself, I find that this is a really good time. People will either go, they go victor or they go victim. And victim, sit on the couch, carve a new hole in the cushion, and just watch everything on Netflix that you can devour, which that is not research. That's not study. That's not self-help. Or you become victor, where you go spirit. What's my spiritual connection? Where am I connected to source? Soul, is my mind healthy? Are my emotions healthy? Am I making smart choices? My body physically, what are we doing? You've been getting into fasting, which I'm so proud of you, man, and about ready to go into another longer fast, and God bless you on that. Taking care of your body, thinking about what are we consuming? This is the fuel. These are the nutrients that we're putting in our body. And wallet. And you may say, well, in this time, how could you think about wallet? Because there's still currency. There's still a need to be able to balance the money. Now, the equations are all cattywampus right now, but we still have to balance out what we're spending, what we're taking in, and finding that balance as well. So to keep all these things on point, I think really puts you in a proactive place of coming out the other end of this, whatever it looks like, in better shape.
Absolutely. That would be the only goal. And we're going to be fine. I'm not talking about, obviously, the thousands of people that have lost loved ones. It's awful. There is no way to express how awful. And unfortunately for me, I think 66 to 75% of it unnecessary. But whoever does make it out of this, we will be fine. But these are the moments and times when you have to look yourself in the mirror and really figure out, how do you operate? What is not just your operating system as an actor? What is your operating system as a person?
Person. Who are you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Who am I?
Who do you really need in your life? Who do you really need to get out of your life? What do you really need to spend money on? What don't you need to spend money on? Because this business is tough, even for old guys like me. Yeah, I mean, I would. You have to find the joy. It's hard, but you have to find those things not just about the result of booking a job, but about the process. My friend Richard Clark Larson, who I call the Unabomber because he looks like a guy who lived in a hole in Colorado. Um, he used to say at TAN, enjoy the process, and it's hard to do sometimes, but this is a good time to address all the processes that make up what we go through to wind up on set, and you've got to find a way to enjoy more.
Kevin, that's fantastic. I want to just say thank you for being on the show. Appreciate
My
everything. Coming out.
Piece of cake, man.
And being here.
Piece of cake.
6 feet away, but we're here.
7.2.
7.2. Okay, he's the mathematician.
No, I'm a golfer.
Yeah.
That's a seven.
The math must play into the golf, right? Angles.
100%.
Yeah, that's why you're so good. That's why you took math, to be a better golfer. Hey, guys, this has been the Performance Zone Special Edition, Hollywood Industry Talks. I'm Coach Clay Banks, and we will see you on the next one. Great.
Okay.
And
I got something for the last one.
there it comes. Watch out, everybody.
One of the things that struck me a long time ago, because I've been doing this a long time, is we as a community, because we are at the bottom of the totem pole if you're not a celebrity, we do tend to have a philosophy of it's us against them. And there are a handful of things that I think are just killers psychologically for this community. And that's one of them. And so if you have some quiet time, during this pandemic to really sit and realize, you know what? Casting directors really do want you to be awesome. Writers really do want to sit there and go, damn, they did that even better than what I thought about it in my head when I wrote it. And producers are like, bro, got that in 2 takes, just saved us money to get this crap done. Remember that person. I think it's really helpful to develop a philosophy that this is a team sport. And we may feel sometimes like the occasional punter or kicker who comes in once in a blue moon, but you know what? You still got to do your job. And everybody wants you to do a good job. And we're all on the same team, even though it doesn't feel like it a lot of times. That's something I'd say to the community for sure.
Man, that's great insight right there, Kevin. Thank you for sharing that.
Welcome.
Appreciate you being here, too. Thanks so much.
Good times, man.
All right, you betcha. Guys, another episode of the Performance Zone, special edition, Hollywood Industry Talks. My guest today has been Kevin E. West, and I, again, am Clay Banks. And I want to thank you guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Till then.